Hello and welcome to another COMP3218 game design and development video from the University of Southampton. We are once again looking at some more of our students' courseworks. My name is Tom Blount. I am one of the lecturers on the course and I am joined today by...
Hi, my name is Bob Remington, and I am one of the demonstrators on the course.
So, for this coursework, we asked our students to make a game focused on storytelling. And we asked them to make a small game prototype with a story engine, so where the game impacts the narrative and where the narrative impacts the game. We asked them to base this on one of three fables, which we will have a look at in a moment. And in fact, without further ado, let's jump into that first game. All right, and our first game for this batch is the Panther's Fate. So we're having to run this one in the editor, and it's also worth pointing out that this is the work of one person, so we'll be taking that into account as we go. So, a panther has fallen into a deep pit in the heart of a forest. Shepherds. So I think we can tell which of the three fables they've gone for here.
Yes, indeed.
So some suggest throwing stones to end the threat. Others consider offering food to the weakened creature. So we can throw stones, we can offer food, or we can choose not to choose. What should we do first?
Ooh. Well, I've been playing a lot of Blood Bowl lately, so throw a rock at it.
All right, blood for the blood god. The
Blood for the
shepherds.
Blood God.
The shepherds hurl stones at the trapped beast. It growls weakly, but hurt but still alive. So we can either continue doing what we were doing, or we can say, are we the bad guys?
If it's still alive, we haven't thrown enough rocks.
Okay, throw more rocks. The panther dies, but without its presence, the wolves overwhelm the flock. Ah,
Well, I didn't know this panther was a shepherding panther.
well, it turns out it was. So I tell you what, let's you know that trick of when you're in a maze, you just keep one hand on the left wall.
Yeah,
Let's do
yeah,
that.
yeah, and try the different things. Yeah.
Okay, so we stop and reflect. And now we threw a rock at it, and then we went, actually, no, have some food.
Okay.
So it feels like this is probably part of a split join. So we've got try to pull the panther out, leave the panther overnight, return with. We just threw a rock at it. I'm not sure it's
So
entirely forgiven
let's
us for
keep
that,
yeah,
but
but
let's
let's
try it.
keep our hand on the left hand wall and go and try and pull that panther out. Oh,
Okay.
indeed, it scratches your arm. Valid.
Ooh, ending 4 this time. So we've skipped 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So the panther returns, targeting only those who harmed it. Okay. So
Okay,
stop
so you
reflect.
don't die, so that's nice.
The panther, now it trusts us,
Mm-hmm.
allows you to help it out of the pit. So we can release it into the forest or keep it caged. Ooh, ending 6. The panther leaves
Ah,
without
hooray.
further conflict. Balance is restored. Right, you know what? I'm gonna take my hand off the wall, and I'm just gonna keep ignoring things. Oh, interesting. So we chose a different sequence of actions, but we got the same
Mm-hmm.
ending. So there is some
Mm-hmm.
sort of like branching and joining going there, which is nice.
Yeah,
That's
there
one
is.
way of
Yeah,
managing
there
agency.
is. Yeah, there is going out and coming returning. Um, so as you click through some of these story options, let's have a look at the old marking criteria here.
Yeah, let's do that.
Presentation. Um, it does look perfectly pleasant.
Yeah,
It's
they've
everything is legible. Nothing is, nothing seems to be, the information that is there is clear and readable.
yes. Sorry, I'm coughing a little bit. I do apologize. Um, yeah, on the one hand, it is a bit simplistic. They could have, again, I'm
Hmm.
not expecting hand-drawn illustrations, but they maybe could have found some open, like CC0 assets to help illustrate some of these a little bit more. But on the other hand, yeah, you're right. It's a nice, if simplistic style. The problem
Yeah,
is
it
there's
is
not
simple. There isn't any sound. Yeah, sorry, continue.
part of the problem is there's not a lot of information for them to display. So although
Mm,
all of the information is displayed, the only information is the story text and the choice text. It's not it doesn't keep a track of I don't know our inventory or the panther's demeanor to us or anything like that. Which
hmm
so although what they've got is nice, I unfortunately it is like very, very simplistic, so it feels like it's probably sort of at the pass level. So
Yeah, I think that
which
would be
is
fair. It is definitely simplistic, putting it into make which is what the real flaw is here, is how simple it is here, I think.
yeah, and sort of on that note, meaningful play.
Mm,
So this is, I would say, an interactive narrative, not a game.
hmm hmm
And while interactive narratives are fantastic and I love them, we did specifically ask for a game. And
mm,
there's not much in the way of mechanics here. We are sort of making choices, but we're more exploring a hypertext rather than, I don't want to be reductive, but you can think of a game in a lot of ways as being about balancing numbers, whether that's
hmm
your character's health or your character's food stores or the panther's disposition. So, and it's not like we're making choices that change the panther's disposition value. We are just exploring branches in a story.
Yeah, yeah. There are sort of the telling thing here is, I mean, apart from anything else, there isn't really a lot of interconnecting mechanics that explore the story in ways that feel meaningful. There is one mechanic, and it is clicking, and even that's kind of a bit of a stretch. And that we're not in the same way that we don't really mark, the graphics for being how fancy they are. We're also not really marking this as a creative exercise. We mark it as a game design exercise. So just having it as a sort of interactive branching narrative means there isn't a lot of game here or a lot of play for us to be looking at.
So it so an absent would be no real gameplay.
Mm.
Poor would be insufficient mechanics. And again, I know we're bearing in
Um,
mind that this is the work of one person, but
mhm.
even so, it feels like it's maybe between the two there a bit.
Yeah, do you feel okay? Um, yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, insufficient mechanics still implies kind of more than one. Um,
And as you said, like
yeah.
clicking is a control scheme, not a mechanic. So it
Mm,
feels it is a somewhat below that, I'm afraid.
yeah. Okay, yeah, that's fair. Um,
And we're going to have a similar problem with the story engine, I feel, because the components that we're looking at is how does the game impact the story, and how does the
mhm,
story impact the game? And because of this
mhm.
lack of game, there's not really any way that we can say that it does have this impact.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. I could make an argument potentially for story to game world, just because as you explore things, there are different endings. But in terms of game world to story, it's broadly absent. There isn't any kind of gameplay that affects how you interact with the story.
Yeah, I mean, there's very obviously support for it. Still, you could
Mm,
absolutely include mechanics on a premise like this. Again, sort of
okay.
having a trust value for the panther and a trust value for the farmers. And as you make choices, one
Mm,
goes up and one goes down, and then the game becomes about maximizing one or trying to balance both, and it then lets you do interesting things around, like with your hypertext. You don't have to always follow the same path because you're tracking sort of the long-term impact of these story choices with these different sort of variables. So you could have events that you'll see in one playthrough and not another. You can have them sort of appear in different orders, but because you're sort of tracking them across it, it's less about the path that you take and more about, again, these sort of variables under the, like within the engine, maintaining sort of the context over the course of the story. And then similarly, you could do something where the story impacts the game. So when one of these values gets to a certain level, maybe it locks off certain choices. So that
mhm.
impacts sort of the way that you play, or maybe you know once you get to a certain relationship with the farmers, you get some kind of bonus. Maybe you get an extra option in your choices, or something that impacts sort of the mechanics that you're using to investigate the story. As it is, in terms of game world to story, it feels like, again, it's kind of verging on absent because there is this lack of a game, but it feels like there is
Hmm.
definitely support for both of these elements there. So I feel like that
Hmm.
that lifts it to maybe a poor at least for sort of both of these elements.
Yeah, I would say a poor for both of them because there is some support on both of them, but not really beyond that, I think. Um, and so in agency, um, so there are choices.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, it doesn't really feel like how your choices are affecting the story until you hit the end in some ways. Although I guess, you're feeding the panther or you're working with the shepherd. So I guess there is some of that. Um,
Yeah, it's
they
interesting that they
broadly.
include walk away and ignore as one of the first
Mm,
choices. Like they literally gives you the option to not choose anything as one of your choices.
mm. Yeah, I was looking at the marking criteria. So what happens if you do just, oh, there we go. Yeah, its fate is
So
uncertain.
so we can continue ignoring it, or we can come back and ignore it some more later.
Hmm.
So and yeah, kind of going to that sort of like ongoing list of choices. It does feel like they're like we ignored it the whole time, but then we left it some food at the end,
Mm.
and so it never harmed us again, even though we left it in a pit to die. so so there are definitely choices. In fact, there is nothing but choices in this game. How many of them are
Mhm.
interesting, do we think? So there's like some
I
some of
do
these
think they
choices I would say
broadly.
go ahead.
If it had just been the waveform broadly collapses to the panther is dead, the panther or the panther um comes back and eats you, then or the panther leaves you alone, that is, I mean, then that's kind of where we are. But there is a bit more interest in that. There is the panther actively helps keeps wolves away. The panther doesn't harm the flock, or the panther does harm the flock but leaves you alone. So there are some. I would say some of those are more interesting than just um yes or no kind of outcomes.
So so I was going to say there's a couple of interesting choices in my opinion. Like the first choice of path of violence, path of peace. That's kind of an
Hmm.
interesting thing. We can sort of do a tiny bit of role playing and sort of what are my morals in this situation? Should I help the helpless creature or should I try and kill the dangerous predator to save the village?
Hmm.
But then a lot of the choices kind of are less interesting because they compound on. So, for example, if we try and kill the panther, then we immediately get the choice: do you want to kill the panther or do you want to help the panther again? And once we've already made that first choice, it feels uh, it takes away from the interestingness of the second choice by just giving us the same choice again.
Hmm.
I was
Hmm.
about to say that this last choice that we just saw, so if we help the panther, we help it recover its strength, we get it out of the pit, and then we get the choice of now do we set it free or do we keep it in a cage as a curiosity or a pet or something like that. And
Yeah.
again, kind of an interesting choice. There's a moral dimension to it. There's no no clear consequences to what might happen, but we have enough sort of context and that we can imagine what might happen next. But then if we choose put it in a cage, then we still get the same ending of the panther returns. It's like, well, no, he hasn't gone anywhere. I've just put him in a cage. So did putting him in the cage fail? Did he manage to escape or something? So that, in a way,
Hmm.
again, kind of undermines that as an interesting choice because the consequences
Mm.
don't follow on from the choice that we've just made. So, so
Yeah,
a
it's
pass would be
mine's a
some,
little arbitrary.
yeah. So a pass would be some choices, but only a few are interesting. Satisfactory would be
Hmm.
a number of interesting choices. Where do you think this falls? Pass, maybe
Um,
between pass and a satisfactory.
yeah, I think we could put it there. There are, and that, there is definitely attempts to make choices feel meaningful, but it hasn't quite come off. So I think we can be a little generous in that attempt there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so put that between the two.
Okay. What about? pacing?
Because you are always given two choice, like the second choice, and it's, put the hat on the hat, like throw the stone, or whatever. Because in some places the pacing feels a little erratic to me, or even flat, because
Yeah,
um you've made your choice, and then it doesn't, the tension doesn't rise. It just kind of, it's like stays the same. I guess you could, argue that's like a doubling down on choices, or you receive sort of some degree of warning maybe about it, about where the trajectory is going. Can you change your fate, etc.? But I do think it's a little unclear.
I think also, I mean, again, obviously, small game prototype. We're expecting small scale things here, but
Mm,
even with that scope, the distance, if you like, between start and ending means there's not actually a lot of room to have that ascendant pacing and build to a final climax. And again,
mm,
combined with, I don't want to harp on it too much, but like the lack of mechanics, it means you can't sort of have that interplay of dramatic tension and mechanical tension. There's no climactic final boss fight or anything like that to sort of really hammer
mm.
that home. So a poor would be there is no serious attempt to control the pacing. Pass would be the pacing is unclear or flat. To me, it's
I
maybe
think we
between
can.
the two, but do you think it hits the pass level?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
I was going to say, I think we can probably say it's between the two.
Okay. All right. Between the two, it is. Storytelling techniques. So I mean, there's only one technique, and that is in the form of text,
Hmm.
uh, text and choices. Do we
Yep, there
think?
is there is one form of there is one storytelling technique here, which means that I think we can't, take it to the higher end. But
How
having
successful
said
do we
that,
think
I
that
would
technique
say
is?
I think they have somewhat successfully used it, because I mean the game absolutely hangs together on it, as basically like the core of it, because it is a storytelling game, and you do get a story in this way. It's functionally like what the core of this game is, or and indeed what the whole of this game is. So I think we can say that it's possibly even a fully successful use of one game writing technique.
I was going to say, do we think it's partially successful or fully successful? And the word you used before was somewhat successful, which to me feels kind of in the middle of the two. But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
if you think it's a fully successful use of that technique, and beyond the things that we've already criticized around agency in the story engine, I think you're probably right. I think it is a successful implementation of that.
Mm. Yeah, you know what? I will stand with that as well, because they have that, like it is a story, and it uses this technique, and you get a story through it. So, yeah, I'm gonna say that is a satisfactory use of the storytelling technique.
Okay, doke. And last but by no means least is feedback.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, in their game notes, I don't think they talked about any of the feedback that they got or any of the ways in which they responded to it. So
No.
as a result, unfortunately, yeah, that's effectively absent,
Hmm.
and that brings us to the end of this game. So let's move on to the next one. Okay, and our next game is Village Manager. So this one we also need to run in the editor because the build didn't work, unfortunately. But here we are. We've got a title screen. I don't think we've got any sound, unfortunately, but let's click New Start and let's jump into it. Ooh, okay. There we go. I was worried that it wasn't quite working. We do have some sound. In fact, we've got quite a lot of
Hmm.
sound, so I'll just bring that down a little bit.
Yeah, we've got a quite a developed UI here as well. That's nice. Wood and food.
So we've got wood, we've got food, we've got. I assume this is like a clock, like a time thing. So we've got
We've got.
morning, evening, night, maybe. Hit enter to
Hmm.
continue. We can place buildings. We can show that. Oh, I'm already excited for this. It seems that your village has a guest. They require a house to rest in after the attack from the local animals. Build them a house. Can I go to this village? I would love it if I just showed up at a village and they built me a house. Yoke. Place building. Ooh.
Oh, that's nice. I like a here is your tile map kind of map into interaction. I think that's nice.
So it costs 50 wood. Doesn't cost any food. I don't know how many workers we've got, but there you go. Oh, look at that. That's some good UI there. Where do we want to put the house?
Put it right next door to yours, so if you need to talk to them, you can be right there.
I live on a hill. I can't put it next door to me, but I can. I'll put them. There we go. I'll put them here. Ooh, and it doesn't build instantly. It's got a.
No, it's Stardew Valley rules. You got. Oh, here's your workers.
Can I? Oh no, I'm not
You're
sure.
right inside them.
Not sure what to do now. I'm not ready to go to sleep, no. Interesting that I've got to press enter to bring up the choice. Maybe could be streamlined a little bit. So I can't talk to any of these, although they do all seem to really love me.
Yeah, they're big heart fans. Is there? I'm assuming there's no like E or enter or spacebar interaction.
Let's go have a look. I mean, the only controls they've told us so far are WASD. We interact with it. Actually, that's a good point. Enter was the next to dialogue bit, so maybe it is for this. I can't place any more buildings because I don't have the wood. It's interesting that food shows up as green, but wood shows up as this. I would have expected if I had the wood, this would show up as green, and maybe if I don't have it, it shows up as red or something.
Yeah.
Time seems to be ticking.
Oh, you need three. Yeah, you need 3 workers. Can you place workers by clicking on them there?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I don't seem to be able to. We've got a lot of people in our town though. Only 2 of them have names though.
One of them's named after a custard.
We got some.
I'm enjoying that you're real close when you go past the villages, like giving them a little kiss and mwah.
It's like hello to you too.
Okay, they do a French hello in this village.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not sure. I tell you, I'm going to go to sleep. See if that changes anything.
Excellent. Classic sleeps.
Another night of rain. The river seems close to flooding. Bit of foreshadowing there, maybe.
You've got a house now.
Oh, they're all unhappy. Why are they all unhappy? Oh, the house is there. Good.
House has been built.
Our food has gone up, but everyone is unhappy.
Everyone is upset.
I don't seem to be able to harvest any of this.
But everyone's unhappy because it's raining.
Maybe. While I am sort of blundering around slightly aimlessly, do you want to have a quick look at the game notes they handed in just to see if they've got any secret tips?
Certainly. Ooh, into the forest with you.
Oh, interesting.
Oh.
So there you go. Blundering around aimlessly has helped.
Hey.
Yes, cut down some trees. Ooh, I've got to press enter and then use the mouse to. Oh, this is. Sorry. Go on.
Are you having trouble chopping down trees over there?
I'm gonna grumble about the controls in a moment, but yeah, having to walk to a thing, press enter to show the dialogue to say yes, and then having to switch my hand to the mouse to click yes. Not the best control scheme I've ever seen, but you know, it's workable. It's fine.
So they have mentioned that you were right on the foreshadowing. There will be a flood. We must therefore consider trying to rebuild quickly, which requires cutting down lots of trees. and how quickly you rebuild will affect the happiness of the villagers. So yeah, get some wood, I guess. You can do that, or you can go to bed.
Okay, so the only building that I can build is a house still. It also says days left to accept 1, but I'm pretty sure it said that yesterday.
Mm.
And I'm pretty sure I built a house. Right, so maybe we should see if anyone's moved into it. I also don't feel that pushed for space at the minute. I don't think I need to cut down these trees to clear space. I think I just need to cut them down for the wood.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone? Hello? No, nobody's moved in yet. Oh, in fact, no, yeah, because we've still got 20 workers. I don't know how many workers are free. I don't know how many trees I've said they should chop down. So it'd be maybe nice in the UI if it had like maybe a little symbol saying what their current job was, or like a 19 of 20 or something to tell me how many I had left at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So currently, I'm not quite sure which of the fables they've based this one on.
Uh-huh. Oh, I have. There was a bit in the description of the story about what else happens with the trees, which I have chosen to keep to myself in order to maintain the narrative tension.
All right,
so,
we'll find out then. I'm also curious what happens if we stay out past our bedtime, so to speak. What happens if like, do we have to go to sleep? I guess that's just a way of fast forwarding the day if we run out of villagers. Oh, was that? I think a flood just happened. I'm going to call that.
Yeah.
The tiniest cutscene, but hey, tiny cutscenes are good cutscenes.
A tiny deluge.
Maybe we should build defenses. Okay, so now can we build something else? Aha! So how much wood have we got? We've got 75 wood. But this thing costs 100 wood. Each connected crop tile produces 5 food. A wooden barrier to block floodwater. Days left to accept. I feel like... I wonder if this is a case of they've got an asset for like a quest log, or whether we literally only have 3 days to build these things.
I think it might be slightly different in that I think that it wants you to build the house for the new villagers somewhere, but it doesn't. It hasn't actually given a particular place. So you built that house there, and because it's still saying days left to accept 1, I think it might be that it was supposed to be there or something, but I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll tell you what, we've got some extra wood, so I'll build that one there. Oh, these houses are all broken. That's why they're sad.
Yeah, the flood has ruined their
left
houses.
click to repair.
Ah, that's nice. Cute.
So I can't.
You brought up wood, mate.
Well, I know. I was just saying we get a little sound effect when we try that. So where can I put a flood barrier? Is that what this blue highlight is? Yeah. So there's a farm here. Farms are probably worth protecting. So it's there's some little barriers there. Then we're out of wood. So we'll go clear cut the forest, because that's how you prevent environmental collapse.
Cut down the trees that hold the root system together.
Yeah, I see no consequences for my action.
I'm sure.
The trees grow back in 3 days. That's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty effective forest. But yeah, as you say, having to go through the dialogue tree every time you want to cut down a tree is a bit excessive.
I would quite like to just walk through and spam E or something like that. Shall we start talking about the marks criteria?
Absolutely. So let's talk about presentation here. For me, because there are these, somewhat annoying control. Well, that comes under mechanics, I guess.
That comes under mechanics, yeah.
So that's mechanics, yeah. Okay, so because it's a bit unclear about what you're supposed to be doing, and you know, the role of the villagers, and you kind of can go up to villagers, but you can't like talk to them really, and it's not super clear about how the quest log is working. But on the other hand, everything looks pretty, and then once you start building things, it's like, okay, it's all coming together. And also, you know, the whole thing, it's got a tracker there for your days. You know, you can keep track of your wood and your food. For me, this is somewhere between satisfactory and good, in that it's definitely workable. I'm not sure it's snuck into the professional category.
Interesting, because I was saying, well, I was about to say rather, I think it's good or maybe a little bit beyond. Like for the most part,
Ooh.
all of the UI that's here, I really, really like.
Mhm.
Like, particularly the like, you know, the building placement and things like that
Ah,
is
yeah,
done really, really nicely. Like we've
that's
got,
fair.
there are definitely some bits of polish, like for example, the
Mm,
highlight of what we can. So why is zero food highlighted here, but zero food highlighted here, and so on. And maybe some lack of information design in what we're supposed to be doing next, but we are getting these
mm,
hints at the start of each day that tell us what we should be doing. It might be nice if
hmm
they were recorded in a quest log or something like that. But even things like, this guy's sad because his house is broken.
mm.
Whereas, are you happy? No, you're okay. Never mind. Um, oh, this bridge is
Oh, a
broken.
bridge.
Uh, we don't have enough food.
Whoa. I would like it if you could also keep track of workers, like who's working and who's occupied, as
Yeah,
you
I think
say.
that's
But
the
I will
main.
happily meet you. Yeah, I'll meet you in the middle at good though.
Yeah, I definitely think we can say it's good. All right. What about meaningful play?
Meaningful. Are you having fun, Tom?
I am having fun. That's partly because I just like these kinds of games. But oh, it's getting late. Can't seem to
Oh, now
get.
you're going to find out what happens if you run out of day.
Well, no, because I can't get rid of that interface. So I'm just going to go straight to sleep. Hope that
Okay.
it's gone in the morning. Yeah, I'm having fun. Ooh, hey, a little cutscene. Listen, wow, I
A
wasn't.
bear.
So
A bear is coming to slap your house.
so I built some flood barriers. I didn't build any bear barriers.
You fool.
I can't put that there.
Um,
Actually, what were we saying? Oh yeah, I'm having fun. I kind of like this game. It feels, again, control wise, I don't really like having to like constantly move my hand back and forth between keyboard and mouse. But
mhm,
you know, we've got a bunch of resources we're managing. We're given clear ways to, well, getting the wood could maybe be a bit clearer. I did have to just wander around until I could figure out that I could knock down some
mhm,
trees. But, you know, yeah, we can gather resources. We can spend those resources on repairing the bridges, fixing buildings that have decayed, building new buildings. Some of those have immediate benefits like generating more resources. Some of them have longer term benefits that are only implied, like the flood barriers. There's different events that happen every night. We have the day-night cycle. Like, there's a lot of mechanics here working together.
mm,
And I think they all work together really, really nicely.
mm.
Um,
Um, yeah.
I
So
would,
do you reckon?
if it wasn't for a few of my issues with the controls and to a lesser extent, I guess information
Mm,
design, but we've already talked about that, I would say this is probably excellent.
mm.
As is, I'm thinking maybe between the two. What do you think? Am I just?
I think no, I think that's fair because you know, if we want, you know, smooth mechanical control, if it's going to be, if we're going for that excellent vibe, it's not, it by no means is it unplayable, um, but I think a good is a good between good and excellent is reasonable here.
So the next bit is the story engine. The tricky thing is, it feels like
We haven't quite,
we haven't gotten that far in the story yet. So we'll play a
mm,
little bit more and we'll see how we get on.
yeah.
And again,
I
this
do think. Ooh,
years.
I do think we can think a little bit about pacing already. Just because I feel like I'm developing a set. There is a sense of tension developing here in terms of the pressure. There's there's pressures on you in terms of keeping villagers happy, and there is the lurking threat from the woods. And of
there's
course from the rain as well, which it does sound like it's still raining, but you can no longer see the
yeah, we haven't got
rain.
the sprite anymore, but we still have the audio of it. And you're right. There's so something that I tend to say in the labs a lot is just slapping a timer on something is a very easy, and if I'm being uncharitable, a very lazy way of giving you a sense of tension and progression because something is counting down, an event will happen. In this, they've kind of taken that simple idea and done something slightly more complex with it. So not only do we have time advancing and stuff progressing each night with seemingly a rising dramatic curve, so it starts off fine, but then there's a flood, then there's a bear, like all of these things sort of are increasing in tension, and there's also the similar kind of thing, or the reverse, if you like, of having all of these resources, and the faster we go through them, the faster that builds the tension as well. It feels like we're something is going to come to a head where we don't have enough resources to be able to do the thing we need to do to save the village.
Yes, and I also think the fact that we have those nighttime cutscenes means that we have, more than one peak. We have actual arcs happening with in terms of the story. It feels like it's rising at points. So I sort of we should probably wait until we see if there's a powerful denouement before we slap a grade category on it. But I do think we've got some interesting pacing happening here. Another thing I think we can now say for sure is that there is use of giving you slaps, slappy. Oh, trees.
Oh no! Oh! Oh no!
Oh!
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 I feel very sad now. The animals. So because we've been chopping down trees, the bears are angry, and the bears are more likely to.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that! That's game to story, isn't it?
Yeah. I think we can also.
Oh no!
Dear.
Oh dear!
Oh dear. Now, while you try and get yourself out of this unfortunate angry bird loop, I was going to say that we can now say that there's definitely more than one storytelling technique at play here. We've got a narrative voice that gives you a little hint of what's happening at the start of every day, as well as it pops up as dialogue boxes.
I'm gonna have to quit and start again.
Oh dear. Yeah. These things do happen with this. And we've got cutscenes, and we've got that felt like a nicely developed cutscene as well, with the bird getting cross.
I'm just gonna go to sleep for 5 days and see what happens. Yeah, I agree. I think there's probably more they could have done with it. Oh, there's the bridge getting destroyed. I missed that the first time through we played. Wait, is the bridge still there?
The bridge might still be there. I think the river.
Bridge is still there?
Yeah.
Bridge. So that's story impacting the game world, isn't it? Alright, so we'll probably pop back and speak about those in just a moment. But yeah, let's finish this thing about techniques. So yeah, definitely a good use of several different techniques. I'm kind of disappointed that the NPCs don't say anything. It would be really nice if they all had one line of dialogue, or some of them had one line of dialogue that changed day to day, that could reference the event that happened in the night, their fears for the future, how they feel about the fact that we've chopped down trees. Some of them might be delighted that we've got resources. Some of them might be sad about all the poor little birds. Like, there was a real potential for being able to cram in lots of story without having to have it all sort of narrated by a narrator, if you like. But that said, what they have got is still really good, I think.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I think you've got a lot of villages, around, so using them to give a little bit of exposition would have been grand. But we've got cutscenes and we've got these things, so I think we can mark it as a good.
Wrong techniques, aren't we? Good. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm still not sure which of the fables they're talking about, but just do you think the mechanics that they've got here, so the resource management and the sort of having to rebuild or deforest? Oh, I can just mash enter. Oh, I wish I'd known that. Do you think that do you think the mechanics suit the theme or enforce the theme of the fable that they are trying to tell? So this sort of husbanding our resources, so forth.
I am not sure which story it is. So I'm gonna cheat and take a look at their story engine writing here, which does not say, as far as I can see.
Okay, so I think we'd probably call it a good though.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And sort of flashing back to meaningful play, I think. Yeah, if I can, let me go find a tree. If I can just spam through this, I can just spam through this, so that makes life a little bit easier. However, we did kind of find a game-breaking bug, so those things probably cancel each other out. So I think we leave that mark as it is. But now let's finally go back and talk about the story engine. So we've already said we've definitely seen examples of it going both ways. So game to story. The more we cut down trees, the more events we get in the night. We get angry bears, we get sad birds. I don't know how... Well, I was going to say I don't know how important they are. The bear attacking the buildings is important in the sense of it then sort of impacts play that we're going to talk about when we talk about story to game. We haven't really gotten to the outcome of this. So again, they should in their story notes have a thing sort of showing us the different branches in their story. Do they have anything that sort of shows the consequences of those actions?
They do, and they point out that if the villagers' houses become too damaged and they become too cross and upset, they will leave. They will leave the village for pastures new.
Given I've just slept for 12 days straight, none of them seem to be that upset.
That's a good point, actually. How many workers do you have now?
That's a good point. Still 20 so far.
Oh, so yeah, truly, they didn't mind. They weren't too upset.
Oh, that's interesting. We seem to have doubled up. I don't know if that's significant or if that's maybe just a little bug.
What else have we got in this? Let me have a little look at this here.
Be maybe nice if I could click and drag.
So the reactive events are: if the animals are unhappy, they will attack your farm and steal your food. If you cut down lots of trees, the animals will become homeless. If the food is low, villagers become unhappy. And if the villagers become unhappy, the villagers leave. Again, as you say, you have not seen this happen yet.
Oh no, it's the same event. Are we going to get stuck again? No, it worked that time. For unknown reasons. Oh.
Oh.
Okay. Again, I'm going to maybe assume that that's unintended and that wasn't just the end of the game.
Yeah, it may be that they ran out of time on fully implementing the everything. But I think we can say we can guess it's a bug. There is a second flood which we have not managed to get to yet, which I believe is kind of the. It doesn't. No. Apparently, the first flood can happen on day 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I think the second flood happens after a certain level of happiness or sadness or forest deforestation has happened. So it might not be to do with the days. And then the second flood it appears to be a trigger for people leaving, and animals getting attacking and whatnot. If you manage to balance everything out, then both the village and animals live in harmony and rebuild after the flood.
So to me, that sounds like an. Is that a number of examples, or is it just cutting down trees? Well, no, cutting down trees, balancing the food, making sure the villagers don't leave, putting the flood defense. You know what? I will say that's definitely a number of examples, and it sounds like it impacts the story in important ways if the endings diverge as they say they do. I don't know whether we're going to be able to get there, because I'm seeing a couple of warnings in the bottom left that say not reference exception, but we'll plow on.
I guess that's the downside of play.
So it feels
Yeah,
like there is a
brilliant.
point where we get to the end of the game and then it just ends, and that's a real shame. I'm not sure if that's a bug or, again, like you say, they did just run out of time to finish telling them that part of the story.
Mm.
Okay, so it feels like game world to story is at least a good.
Cool.
Maybe even the excellent consistent interplay. I'm not sure. I think good is pretty solid.
I think good is pretty solid. I think the fact that we're not quite sure is what I'm not sure that there's quite the consistency for the excellent category here.
I think also, given the fact that I could just sleep for 15 days straight and things seem to sort of tick along as normal. I know it's not the intended way to play, but it feels like things maybe should have unraveled before that point. Okay, yeah, but story to game, yeah, similar kind of things. Like,
Yeah.
there's events that happen. Some of them are determined by our actions. Some of them are just determined by the story engine itself, and they impact the way that we play to a greater or lesser degree. Either our workers leave, either our food is taken. Yeah.
Yeah. There are your house is coming down because of angry bear, etc. Agency, choices. I'm not now. Obviously, feel free to argue with me here, but I'm not seeing that many choices. You've attempted sleeping for 11 days, and it hasn't really made that much of a difference. The game definitely drives you towards trying your best to manage the various things, and that is, it's important. It is an important choice, but it doesn't feel like there are multiple paths to winning, as it were, like fully deforesting a forest in order to.
I don't think I deforested that much this time. I don't deserve sad bird. Yep, and that one's unfortunately bugged out again as well. So it feels like there's, yeah. Might need to revisit the meaningful play one. If we can't get to the end, we'll have a look. Anyway, yeah, the richness of choices. I would say there's at least a number of interesting choices in the. Yeah, like, do we choose to deforest everything for the greater good? And even if we deforest everything, what do we prioritize building? Are we building homes for like people and refugees? Are we building flood defenses? Are we not building anything new but repairing the stuff that gets damaged every night? Are we repairing the infrastructure like the bridge? How are we trying to balance like all of that with our food and happiness? It feels like there is definitely some choices made to be made there, but because of the bugs that we've witnessed that mean that we don't necessarily see the ultimate consequences of that, and because of some of the information design that you've already mentioned, like how many of our villagers are free, what exactly is the root cause of them being sad and leaving, and so on, it removes a little bit of that context for them. So although I would say that there are definitely attempts to manage agency, it feels to me like for that we're probably more on the satisfactory side of things. What are your thoughts?
No, I agree with you there. I think there was yeah, there are some attempts, but I don't think they really come off. And yeah, as I said, I think agency is compared to the game world and game and story world interactions, the actual ability to choose what what kind of trajectory you want your village to take as the village manager feels a bit more minimal. Um,
Yeah, I think I probably agree with you on that.
yeah, so there are choices, and there are interesting choices, but I don't think it's a smooth or impactful expression of player agency. So I'm happy with a good with satisfactory for there. So that brings us to pacing.
We already talked about
Um,
pacing quite a lot, and I don't think we need to necessarily
we did.
rehash the whole discussion. But I don't think we actually
We did.
settled on where it falls on the
We
marks.
did not.
Ah, so I have just noticed a flaw with that, which is again because of this bug potentially, we
Hmm.
don't have that
Hmm.
clear final peak. It just
Mm-mm.
ends.
Exactly. So I think because the reason we held off on assigning a mark to that, was because we were saying, okay, well, we'll see how we feel at the final peak, but we don't have a final peak, unfortunately. So I think we're going to have to go with the satisfactory category because there is some ascending pacing.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for all the reasons that we've mentioned.
Mm.
But yeah, the fact that we get to a certain day and then it just goes back to the title screen. Again, not sure if that's unintentional or if it's just a case of ran out of time. But it's a little bit of a shame. I would like to see the consequences of my actions. So yeah, I think satisfactory for pacing. Techniques we've also talked about a little bit. In fact, I think
Yeah,
we settled on that one as well. So last but
yeah,
by no means least,
we settled on good for that one. Um, Feedback. Let me have a little look in the old feedback pile. Um, all right, I will read it aloud. One of the pieces of feedback we received was on how to pace the game. We agreed that having events occur overnight can build tension through anticipation that an event may occur. We were also told to vary the daily actions available to prevent the game feeling flat. To do this, we added actions such as repairing buildings, offering food, which become available after events or depending on the game state. We were also told to consider events that impacted gameplay. As a result, we added the flood to change the player's priorities and provide new build options. And yeah, I think those changes that they made did affect the pacing, and brought us some rising tension over time.
certainly the events. I mean, we've already waxed lyrical about their. Ooh, currently, I'm trying to explore the forest to see if I can find a bird or a bear and see if there's any interactions I can have with them. But I suspect I'm just going to keep bumping into trees, which means I have to keep using this dialogue. Let's keep propping. Yeah, so I think that bit highly successful. I don't know if they mention it in their notes, but something else that we spoke about in the lab was this idea of, the impending doom of a coming flood, but making sure to foreshadow that to players as well, because you don't want to spend 40 days building your village, only for it to be wiped away. So giving them some signifiers about what might happen, I think it serves them quite well. So having like you say, the flood event, the minor flood in the first couple of days, the pouring rain, which we can hear but not see, and so on.
Yeah.
What was
So the
the other thing they mentioned?
foreshadowing good. Having the foreshadowing made a positive change. Having the events affected the pacing, which was good, and it also demonstrated another kind of storytelling technique, which also has materially affected the grade that they've received so far. So I would say that is a good on the feedback being addressed.
Yeah, I will say. So the other thing they
Potentially more
mentioned,
higher as well.
well, I was going to say the other thing they mentioned, so sort of varying the gameplay and giving you more different things to do,
Mm,
has worked to an extent. So I do like that we have to sort of make a decision between building new houses and repairing old ones.
hmm
But in terms of varying the gameplay and things like that, I don't think it's necessarily had that much impact, because it's still a case of go to the wood, try and cut down as many trees as you can without making the bird sad, and then figuring out what you do with it. So the core gameplay is still get wood and then do something with it, but I do like that they've given us an option to do something else with it.
So, do you feel that this is a successful? That this is in the good category, or higher or lower? I put forth good. How do you feel?
I think it is a solid good.
Great.
All right.
Did you wish to want to revisit the meaningful play category since we've reached the point of big bug?
I think. Oh, and as if to demonstrate that, no, I think it's a bit of a game-breaking bug, and it's happened a couple of times. There we go. But we've also seen it before, and it's just gone straight to the end screen. So I wonder if that's the case of it is actually just an end, and the end screen hasn't popped up or something like that. So I will err on the side of we'll leave that as it is, because we've already sort of covered that, if you like, under pacing, because we don't have that final climax. And again, whether that's the result of the bug or an intentional design decision, I think that sort of shakes out.
Okay, fair enough. All right. That takes us to the next game. Goodbye, sad little bird. And yeah, looks like a beautiful game overall. Shame we couldn't quite get to the final peak, but I enjoyed watching you building houses there.
All right, and our last game for this batch is Netherbrook. And for this one, I am joined with Dave.
Hi there. Yeah, looking forward to this one. I'm really liking the title screen already.
It's very atmospheric, isn't it? And look, we've got an options menu and everything.
Yeah, got a proper menu, got some rain going on.
I say we've got an options menu. Hopefully, when I click new game, it won't say no game either. But
no game for you.
All right, let's try it.
Okay.
All right, nice little push zoom
storybook
on the book
thing going on.
That's really cute.
Yeah, I like this. So, do you have to click on it to?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a next button.
So you spotted the next button. I spent about half an hour playing this earlier, did not spot that the next button had appeared at the end of that zoom, and I was just like, oh, it doesn't work. And it was only when I went back to it later that I found that button. So, yeah.
Did you spot the previous button on the other side?
I didn't know. So that could have been made, a bit bigger, maybe highlighted as it appears, or just let me click on the book. Small. But there it is. We'll click next. Yeah. Because I really like that turn page effect. That's really nice.
It's a lovely animation and a lovely image as well. Very good.
In a way, it makes me more annoyed that I can't just click on the book and drag it. That would be really cool.
It is. What you want to do is click on the left or right page, really, to go backwards and forwards. But okay.
But oh well. Yeah. So long ago in a far land.
Yeah.
The plague erupted in a nearby village. Yeah.
Which threatened the property of the kingdom.
So what do we think about this art style?
It sort of jumped a bit there, didn't it? But I kind of. If you go back, that's kind of sort of
There's something off about this one, and I can't tell if it's just the resolution is not great, or if it's some generative AI.
I think it's a bit of both, right? I'm guessing this is generative AI, but if it isn't, then the resolution on this one isn't so good. You've been sent by the king to find the cure to the diseases. Okay.
Dawn of the first day.
Dawn of the first day.
That's a really nice dark title screen.
Yeah, boom, off we go.
Oh, okay.
Slightly different to where we started, though, I think.
Yeah.
As is your character.
So A and D, E to interact, escape to pause, P to view town distrust. Ooh, is that a day? Is that a day-night cycle? Because it's gone. I can't tell if that's because of where I'm moving or if it's just it's just cycling.
It's random.
Okay, interesting.
Now approaching the township of Netherbrook, press the
button in the bottom right corner to continue. Oh, wait, this one, I guess. There we go.
Yeah.
And P to town distrust.
Yeah, what happens if you? Okay, so all right. I'm not quite sure why that's just not on the screen, but okay.
Halt by order of the king.
But the town, God. Okay.
No one is to enter Netherbrook. Ah, King's seal. You must be the plague
You must be
investigator.
the plague investigator. Oh, this sky's definitely doing a thing.
It sure is. This is like, it's clearly bad when the sky is going from blue to red. Thank God you're here. You better head into town and find the guildmaster. He'll have all the information you need. Thank you. Stay safe. Out of my way. Let's go.
Oh,
Just
Bound
gone
into his
inside.
hut. I don't blame him. A very relaxed walk.
I was going to say
Imperious.
we're getting there. Ooh. That's kind of nice. Foreground and background.
Yep.
You a healer. Daughter's really sick. Use the only medicine you have, or no.
I'm glad
Now
they told us it's the only one we have. Yeah.
It sure is. This maybe feels a bit ham-fisted, but you can't deny it's an interesting choice. Because maybe
Yes.
we're going to need that later. It feels like there's maybe like it feels like it's set up that we're definitely going to need it later, but we're going to feel real bad for saying no to this person.
Yeah, it's a Chekhov's medicine, right? But
So-
let's give her the medicine.
Okay.
Let's be nice.
And now if it
I
doesn't
will
come up
remember
later,
this.
I'm going to go back and revise all of this.
Yeah.
Do you also want medicine, innkeeper? You must be. Heard you were coming. Feel free to use the inn. Complimentary pillow mints. Delightful. Appreciate your hospitality. Let's. What was P?
As you said-
P. Oh, why is the? Oh no, the distrust is at the bottom, so that's good.
Which
That
means
they
trust is at the
us.
top. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange double negative, isn't it? Doing it that way around.
But it's
Do they say you can go back to the inn later to rest?
to rest, yeah,
think-
with the complimentary pillow mints. You're the town merchant. You're closing up, but if we come back tomorrow, anything you need. So this is kind of nice, just introducing all the different characters and what they're useful for.
Yeah.
Here's the guildmaster. The plague is slowly spreading. We don't know how long it will last. Find the source, make a cure. Townspeople are convinced that the apothecary is the cause of it with his herbal remedies. The potion brewer. Potion brewer different to the apothecary.
Apparently.
Also speak to the innkeeper. We've done that.
So who's this bloke?
The potion brewer.
He's the potion brewer.
Potion seller. I require your strongest potions.
So
Works-
he's blaming the apothecary.
What is the difference between an apothecary and a potion brewer?
I think the potion brewer brews potions, and the apothecary, I don't know, because he carries apoths. I don't know what the. I always assume they were the same thing.
Yeah, same. Sorry. So, oh boy, our walking speed is really slow.
You've got a cane. At least it's in character.
He's got a. Is he holding a gun? I am here to.
Apothecary.
I will not suffer fools, not today. Everyone is after me. They think I caused the plague.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, I'm trying to cure it by investigating the river. Oh, and I can't go past this rock.
We haven't got an option saying, more importantly, what's the difference between you and the potion brewer? Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, that's okay. So sounds like maybe go and talk to the innkeep, maybe.
Yep, it feels like we should get an early night, and then we'll solve
Yeah.
this thing tomorrow.
I think by the time we get back to the inn, it'll be tomorrow.
It's so slow.
Quite slow, isn't it? There's a reason video game characters run everywhere.
It's not very realistic, but boy oh boy, it makes things smoother.
Mm.
Do you want to start a new day? Yes.
Yes, please.
Oh, I was hoping it'd say after
Oh,
after a good night's rest, you suddenly feel a lot speedier. You hear shouting outside the tavern. Do we stay in bed? Do we go outside? This feels like this feels like a choice that's do you want to play the game or not play the game?
It does. It'd be interesting to stay. Well, maybe next time we'll stay in bed. See what happens.
Like, maybe we will be faster if we get a proper night's sleep. The rain is beating down. Ray's voice. So I mean, calling this a cutscene again, bit generous, but
Sort of is. You see a group of people with torches surrounding the apothecary. You brought it here. My daughter got sick. We don't want you here spreading your disease. It's a shame that you're right. We don't expect
Like,
a
we have-
cutscene, but
we
it's
have
a
the
shame
sprites
not
for
to
these,
show
right?
a. Yeah, we why not just show the apothecary
Like we do sort of emphasize, you know,
with all
like,
these characters gathered outside it, you know?
the whole point of films
Hmm.
is to show and not tell, and the whole point of games is to do
Yeah.
and not tell.
Yeah.
Should this man be banished, or is it not going to make a difference? Should be banished.
Got no reason. Well,
Yes.
he
Yeah.
seems right. Turn to their homes. So okay, so he likes us, but I'm guessing that the distrust level has risen. I'm beginning to see why they've modelled distrust now. Yeah. Interesting.
Maybe we shouldn't have given that lady our medicine right at the start, because everyone trusted us. Maybe we should have waited until.
Yes, you're right. Until they. Hello.
I just
Is there an
saved
option
your
to say,
daughter.
can you tell everyone about us saving your daughter, please? All
She
right.
won't talk to us. I'm just not going to talk to her next time I play through this. Good morning. How could you let that man stay in the town? I'll only let you remain in the inn because you were sent here by the king.
Yeah.
King will hear of this impetulance.
Mhm. Okay. So again, what's the game element here?
Well, we can
What's the
purchase
play?
items. We've got a brush,
How much? Got
got a
okay.
medicine kit. I don't have any
Okay.
gold.
So a couple of things.
Ooh,
First, why not tell us on this screen how much they are rather than having to remember? Second of all, how much gold do we have?
we don't have any,
How did you know we don't have any?
because that was one of the dialogue options.
But what happens? Okay, but what happens if you try to buy something anyway? Oh, he still tells us to come back. So there's a problem there with information, actually knowing how much we've got, and what our options are.
And why would we want a fine brush?
Yeah.
So the guildmaster says we made the right choice. That's interesting.
Okay. Yes.
Help the apothecary or the potion brewer. Really
Talk to
slowly
the potion brewer.
motivated.
Do you think the potion brewer has been chucking potions in the river? Do you think that's the problem?
I think that might be the problem.
He's very keen to point the finger.
Head the ruins to the east of town and look for the pieces of an ancient stone tablet. You'll need a brush, though. Here's 10 gold for one.
Thank you. Well, just handily. So you're walking east, but the brush was to the west.
I wanted to speak to the apothecary first.
Okay.
I realise now that
Right. Okay.
okay, so you want river
That's right.
water.
So we've sort of got two options to help, but they don't seem mutually exclusive. We can just go and do both, can't we?
Where was the guard that he said I had to
He
speak to?
was all the way over to the left, wasn't he?
Oh,
Wasn't that
no.
the town guard on the way in?
Alright, let's go and
I
speak to
know.
him. Buy a brush on the way.
Yep. I'll have a fine brush, thank you.
Oh, do you think maybe if we'd sided with the town and tossed out the apothecary, his prices would be cheaper, and therefore we'd be able to buy medicine?
Maybe, but we don't need medicine yet.
Well, we've gotten rid of our one bit of medicine.
Well, so aren't we supposed to be a plague doctor?
Do we need the beak?
Hello.
What do you need? I need you to collect some samples from the river. If you go and pick some flowers and give them... Okay.
Oh,
I mean-
it's one of these.
It's kind of gameplay, right? It's...
Yeah.
Where do we find the flowers? Is that them over
There's
there?
some flowers. We passed them on the way in.
I guess he can't get
There
them because
you
he's not
go.
allowed out of the town.
No, so we can get some flowers. All right. So there, you're exactly right. There's our gameplay to story. Very on the nose, but
But I have done it.
yeah, maybe there's more. We need. You have collected 3 of 5 flowers,
I
don't we?
think I've got all of them. Oh dear.
Can you not go any further? Can you not go any further left?
Can't go past that rock. Maybe there's some other flowers on the right-hand side of the town.
Yeah.
We'll go and get this tablet from the other.
Looking at their story map, I'm wondering whether you can't actually do the thing for the guard until you've done the other tasks.
Interesting. That feels like a sort of arbitrary constraint.
Mm. It may just be that their flowchart's wrong.
Oh, okay.
Well,
we'll find out.
That's what it says.
Hopefully I haven't sequence broken us. Oh, so slow. Do you think they played this much themselves while they were developing it?
Yeah. It's very odd that it's not quicker.
Maybe it was just,
so
this is the only animation we had, and it would look silly if we had him whizzing across the...
Yeah.
Ooh, am I going to collect these flowers? No, I'm just going to collect these tablets, which I can only do if I've got a brush for some reason.
Yeah.
But hey, it's...
Yes.
It is kind of the lowest, like the lowest common denominator of gameplay, but it is gameplay.
So I think, again, I think they're assuming that you can only help one of them. So I think you're about to help the apothecary.
No, I'm helping the potion seller, remember.
Wait, who is it?
It's the potion seller that wanted the tablets. But you also said the flowchart implies that I can only help the apothecary after I've gotten the tablets. So we'll find out. What's the trust is still over there.
So that's your potion brewer.
Yay. Can't believe you'd work with that damn apothecary. I will find somebody. I just got you the tablets.
No, I think what they've done. I think looking at their chart, is they look to see whether you help one or the other. So I think by talking to the guard and saying you do it.
Why is the apothecary asking me for flowers?
Come back when you find the flowers.
But he doesn't want flowers, he wants river water. It's the guard that wants flowers.
The guard wants the flowers.
And we've got all the flowers. Oh no. Are we going to have to start again?
I think we might. You might have to help the potion brewer to actually get to an ending.
Okay, that's a bit disappointing.
So
I'm going to go back to the guard one last time and see what we get. But in the meantime, shall we start talking about the marks criteria?
Yes. Okay, I'm still trying to make sense of this flow diagram.
I was going to say, or at least the first bit. We might need to get a little bit further before we start talking about the story.
I think we'll need to get a bit further on. But presentation and meaningful play we can certainly look at. He still wants his flowers and we don't have any.
What if I say, no, just... I can't. Ooh, that's interesting.
Try it.
No, I'm clicking on it. Nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening?
No, I can't click on... I won't. So that's one way of managing agency. I don't like it.
Well, presumably you could have done that the first time, I'm guessing?
Maybe? But it's not like it's grayed out or anything, right? It's not saying you can't click on it. It's just, if anything, I don't know why the top one's highlighting when I click on the bottom one.
No.
Maybe it's just a slightly buggy dialogue. Okay, yeah, I think I'm going to have to quickly restart this. But in the meantime, let's talk about the overall quality.
So, I mean, graphics and audio first. Graphics are nice. I think it looks well presented.
I do really like the intro cutscene. That's really nice.
The intro stuff is lovely. There's a slight inconsistency with the pixel art in that it's at different levels of detail, as it were.
Yeah. The visual styles of that cutscene and the actual game don't necessarily hugely match, but
no. So it kind of sets it up to be a really nice, really pixel art style game, and then it comes up with a sort of different pixel art style, and it kind of feels a bit incongruous. But otherwise, it's nicely done. Like, even the way that those dialogues are presented down the bottom, the rain, the changing light is nice. So I think all the presentation is really good. There's no music, but you've got the sound effect of the rain. I think that's the
So there is definitely like
That's the only
background
thing you've
noise,
got.
yeah.
So I would say that if we were looking at purely graphics and audio, a good would be professional, complete, and effective. Um, and an excellent would be impactful, complete, effective, and appealing.
I would say
And I
there's
think
maybe some limits around the
you,
information design. Like you were saying, we don't know how much
yeah,
gold we've
yeah,
got. We don't know how many
but
flowers we're
yeah.
carrying.
So I think on the graphics and audio, I would go with maybe at the good level. But I
Yes.
was going to say the problem is the information design.
Okay. I
Um,
was getting ahead of myself.
so so yeah, you're right. Um, we don't have an inventory. We don't. Uh, yeah, even in the dialogues, like things like when you were buying stuff, it wasn't telling us the price on the page that we were buying things, and it wasn't showing us our amount. So I think there are some problems. They're not really terrible problems, but they just needs a bit of work. So for me,
On,
that part would be satisfactory,
I
effective but with some inconsistencies.
I agree. I will say one nice thing about the information design is you get this little highlight over people when you can talk to them. That's
Yes, that is
that's
good.
that
Yeah.
is a good thing, and I don't want to overlook that. But yeah, but I think
So
you're
I
right.
think
I
I
think
think that
between a
that-
satisfactory and a good sounds sort of
yeah,
where
that's where it sits, I think. Um, Meaningful play. Um, so this is the mechanics, the controls, and bugs. So we found some. Well, it's interesting what you described that bug as. I mean, it was a game-breaking bug.
kind of was.
Even
Yeah,
though I'm guessing it was a relatively minor problem, but in the back end somewhere. Um, the mechanics. So obviously you've got the interaction. You've got clicking on the yes nos for the dialogues. You can walk left and right.
you can gather items.
You can gather items. Yes, and that's it. So again, I think there's a real problem here with the amount of playable content.
I think you're kind of right. Oh, we
There's
might have to go this way.
they've made a mistake that they don't have enough game. They've essentially said that the game is walking around selecting characters and picking up items, which unlocks character
Uh,
controls. And
I
it's
will
like,
say
well,
there's the
it's
trust
pretty
meter
minimal.
as well.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
so we are
And you
in theory we're
that's the case. Yeah,
balancing the town's perception of us, and that's going to affect
yeah,
their dialogue with us.
yeah, yeah. But that's not. Yeah, but in terms of the actual mechanics in the game and what your interactions with the game, uh, that's all really just part of the story. Clicking on the buttons in the story, and
It is. So I mean, I don't want to say reductive and games are just about numbers, but the fact that we're shown, aha, here is the number, like that makes
so
it
you're
immediately feel more gamey than just we're just
that's
experiencing a
true. So
story.
you're
We've got
saying
this
there's a
number that we're
mechanic where
managing.
there's a mechanic of managing that value. Yeah, you're right.
I
So
don't
okay,
think
so
I think maybe they could, well, we'll see later on, but like it might not be used as much as it could be to make it feel
yeah,
like we're constantly trying to balance that
yeah,
out, and there's peril if we
yeah.
don't. But yeah, sorry, we'll come back to that.
What about the controls?
I mean, the controls themselves are fine. The walking speed is bad. It's far too
Yeah,
slow.
yeah. So I mean, I think overall a satisfactory would be a playable, a simpler game with fewer mechanics, usable controls, may have some minor bugs. A pass would be challenging, simple game with few mechanics, awkward controls, may have serious bugs.
It feels sort of like at the pass level. I think if it didn't have the sort of game breaking bug that we noticed, or the awkward
Yeah,
controls, I think we could maybe overlook
yeah,
that and sort of
it
put it a little
it,
bit
it
higher.
does.
But
I think it hits all three of those, right? It's a simpler game with few mechanics. It has awkward controls in the sense that you walk around incredibly slowly,
oh yeah,
and
this is okay.
it does appear to have serious bugs. So yeah, I think it has to be at the pass.
Oh, he's still
Um,
asking that we. I'm gonna say and I can't say that I won't help you.
so what happened here?
So I
I
found
was
the apothecary outside of town after being kicked out, and he's still asking me to go
ah
and talk to the guard, and I can't say
so you
no.
could still help him.
and
will-
I can't choose not to.
Oh, it won't let you select. I will not help you. I wonder why that is. I think
Again,
that's
I don't
because
know
of
if
your
it-
what's your trust level?
Town loves us
Oh,
because
it's-
we let them kick out the
Yeah.
apothecary. So I
So
don't know if this is
why
a
not give you
poor
the
attempt
option?
at managing agency, or I suspect it's more likely just a bug in the dialogue system.
Another bug in the dialogue system. Yeah, I think so.
Again, I hope that doesn't sequence break us. So we've got the
Yeah.
tablets.
Yeah.
Because if I go to the potion brewer now and he says, "Oh, I can't believe you'd help the apothecary," I'm
Yeah.
gonna be real sad.
Yeah. And again, this is a problem, right? Because he doesn't know the conversation we've had, and the game at this stage doesn't know our intention of whether we're going to help the apothecary or not. Right? You need to judge people on what they've done and not on what they've said. I think, which is generally a good rule for life.
Yeah,
Um,
but also a good rule for story engines.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Good day.
Ah,
Yeah. There you go. So you need to start this, and you mustn't speak to the apothecary. I know you tried to banish him from town in an effort to.
well, I tried
avoid
not to
this
speak. I
bug.
tried to pick up a tablet that was next to him. All right, let's see if I
Oh,
can.
I see.
Let's see if I can speak to the guard.
Actually, find the
this time.
flowers this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do wish you wouldn't dawdle.
I do wonder if it's because it was like, well, this is the animation speed, so this is the speed of the orcs.
Yeah, I think I might be right. In which case, make the town smaller.
Okay.
It's the guard.
Where are we up to now? Story engine?
So, yeah, we're on the story engine and looking for examples where the game world impacts the story and the story impacts the game world. But I kind of feel we need to actually get to the point of seeing some interactions before we can make that decision.
Well, story to game, there's the immediate change that... So here's the thing, right? If they didn't display this distrust meter, I would say this is story to story. But the fact that we make a choice in the night as to whether to let them kick out the alchemist or not, then impacts this number, and that number then impacts the
also
the
that
way all the
decision then
villagers
does have
talked.
but that decision also has an impact on the game world because the apothecary is moved, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think there are examples. So,
but we're going to come
story to
back
game
to
world. The apothecary choice is the obvious one, and then game world to story. Oh my god, that's enormous.
I think that the problem that we're going to come back to again is there's limited gameplay, there's limited mechanics in the world, and therefore it's going to be difficult to sort of pull out those connections between that the story engine is making.
But we have some examples, right? So as soon as you actually no, it's not when you pick up the tablets it changes the story, because it's when you agree to help the apothecary that it changes the story. So I guess you would argue that the game of the story here. Yeah. So the game of the story is what this bit here, right? This is where it should manifest. You have picked up the flowers in the game world, it should now impact the story, and it doesn't work. There's a bug. But it should work. And the same presumably is true of the stone tablets, right? So I think we've got an example in both directions, but it's not particularly rich.
We give them directly to the woman.
Oh, he's telling me.
But that's not what it told us to do.
No.
Did it? Maybe.
How did you select on this by accident?
I was just like, you know what, I'm going to go and talk to this lady because we didn't give her the medicine this time. And
please tell. Okay, right. Okay, there we go. So we've given her the flowers. So now you can go and tell the guard. Just you got to tell him, and then he'll go and do the river water. Then, oh, there we go. So
there is this idea that having an item unlocks more story choices, whether that's the medical kit or whether it's the flowers or the tablets or the whatever.
So I think we've got at least one example in each direction. So a pass in both cases would be a sparse or minor example of where one affects the other.
They're going to have been screaming at the screen the first time I played this, but it's alright. We got there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got there in the end. We ought to we need to revisit the bugs comment as well, but just for the minute. So yeah, pass would be a few sparse and minor examples of where the game world impacts the story or story impacts the game world. And I kind of feel that's where we are for both.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that's being a little bit generous. So, the past level would be story elements of the game, but the game has no real impact to the story and vice versa. So you might argue that given that we've only got, I think so game world to story, we've got at least 2 examples: picking up the flowers, picking up the tablets,
Having the medicine.
having the medicine. Story to game world, we've got really only the choice to kick out the apothecary, maybe.
Okay.
So I think game world to story is definitely at the past level.
Oh no, he gave us the samples. And now this dialogue doesn't seem to have changed. So it might be there is that bug after all, it's just later than we thought it was.
So what happens if you talk to...
Or me?
Well, that's the wrong one, isn't it?
No,
That was the potion seller who...
No, the potion seller wanted the tablets. Look, if I
Oh, no, you're right, yeah.
head to the town guard and ask him to retrieve the samples, but he's just given us the samples.
Did he actually give them to us?
I thought he did. I'm pretty sure it said here are those samples.
Or did he say, I'll go and get them? Go all the
Maybe.
way back to the... I love the way they put the apothecary and the town guard on either side of this very long village.
Maybe I tell you what, I'm going to go to sleep, and maybe he'll give the samples to me tomorrow. Part of the issue is I'm having to play this and read the story, and at the same time sort of talk critically about it on the fly. So
Yeah. You forget what's going on.
yeah,
We could
All
try.
right,
So what I was just saying was that I think there are a few examples, right, of game world to story, but I think there's only one example of story to game world, which is the apothecary. So I think you might argue that the story to game world is actually halfway between a pour and a pass,
yeah,
to represent the fact there's only one place that it happens.
yeah.
Right, let's go to sleep. What happens? We'll start. Yes, let's start a new day.
Crash of thunder.
Oh,
Try and return to sleep.
dawn of the 3rd day.
That's
Okay.
interesting.
Hmm.
That's like a non-choice.
So are you going to the apothecary first or the guard first?
Oh, that's a good point. Let's go to the guard and just see if that's changed.
You always do guard first, yeah. So that takes us on to agency. So this is richness of choices, the number of choices, and whether they're interesting choices.
I would say they don't do a bad job of this. There's the first choice that we saw, and we immediately went,
the medicine.
That's quite interesting. There's the
So
choice
do we
do we
give up-
side with apothecary or potion brewer? Now that
Yeah.
one obviously should be the more interesting choice, but at the point that we are asked to make it, we don't have enough information. One of them,
No, not
one of them
really. One of them's a
accuses
bit
the other.
grumpy.
One of them says,
Yeah.
maybe it's the river.
Yeah.
And my instinct is, well, I'll talk to both of them and, get both sides of the story, figure it out. We're a detective or a doctor or whatever we are. But then that
that's
knocks
where
off half of it.
Yeah. I say so that causes the agency to be a bit problematic because you're not siding with one or the other one, right? And you're not doing anything that the other one would obviously know about. So it seems, so that's an issue. You're not making a kind of an informed choice, as it were. So I mean, a satisfactory would be a number of interesting choices. A good would be a number of interesting choices and attempts to manage player agency. And a pass would be some choices, but only a fewer interesting choices. And a poor would be few choices, player agency is problematic. So actually, I think we've got... No, I don't think so. Because I think we've got some interesting choices. But in terms of managing player agency, I'm not sure there's much going on here in terms of managing agency effectively. I think you'd probably argue that locking you out of one when you select the other one is doing it, but they don't necessarily pull it off. So I would say probably a satisfactory is about right.
Yeah,
for richness of choices.
I think I'd probably agree with that.
So that takes us on to the design elements. That's pacing and storytelling techniques. So pacing, we've got a number of days, and the story is progressing over those days.
And things are changing in the world,
Um,
so like people are coughing on the third day, saying, "Oh God, I hope you're helping it." The
yeah,
king's army is about to arrive and burn down the village if we don't solve it today.
yeah.
It definitely feels like
So
we've got ascendant pacing.
so the narrative tension is ramping up over those days. We need to get to the end really to find out whether we have a kind of climax, because I think that's the difference between um, a satisfactory and a good, right? So a satisfactory would be we've got ascending pacing and then the game ends. And a good would be that we have ascending pacing with a kind of clear final peak, meaning that there is an interactive climax that we're involved in. Um, so I kind of I want to see what happens at the end now.
I suspect we're going to get the bad
Well,
ending because I don't know how to solve the plague.
let's wait for the king's army. Okay.
So this kind of is exactly your point, right? We have an epilogue, we don't have a climax.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see what happens. You see a plume of black smoke. They burnt the village. Yeah. So I think the climax, and what's frustrating is the king's army's on the way, so they have the perfect reason for a climax. And even if it was a narrative climax where you interact with the king's army
Like
and make narrative choices,
it's exactly
right?
the moment where the commander shows up and it says, "Out of my way, I'm about to burn this town down," and you have to
Yeah,
convince him not to. And if you've got the correct
exactly.
evidence, then
And
that
and
unlocks
then
dialogue
yeah,
options and lets you progress.
and
And
there
it's
you are, right?
the player is
And
a central pillar in the pivotal dramatic moment. That's what your climax
and
should
and
be.
that would be perfect, and that unfortunately is missing. So it was all there for them. I don't know whether they ran out of time or whether they just didn't realize that they ought to put that in. So I think what that means is that we have some ascending pacing, which is a satisfactory, right? But I think they did well in terms of showing the play progressing, having the whole idea of the king's army coming, and there being a 3 day limit, kind of
It's
automatically having that time limit gives you
I mean,
that
it's
pacing,
kind of
right?
a
So that
shame
was
that
all good.
it's a real shame that they only mentioned that at the end, right? Like obviously there's
Yes, they
the
shouldn't.
sort of
Yes,
the
yeah,
natural tension of, oh, there's a plague and we should solve it. But if they'd have mentioned, oh, and by the way, you've got 3 days before somebody
yeah.
burns the village down, that would really
Before exactly,
intensify
yeah.
that. But I do like the
So that takes us on to the techniques. So our game writing techniques. What do we have? We've got the sort of setting at the beginning with the book. That was really nice. Then we have the dialogue, obviously, and the dialogue options that come up. Um, we sort of have, like you said, if we were being very generous, you'd call them cutscenes, but they're just the dialogue repurposed again, really.
yeah.
At the end. Is there any environmental storytelling going on? There's people move about, but nothing
People
really
leave. So
changes.
if we don't give the medicine to the woman at the start, I believe she leaves town on the third day, and we can't talk to her again. So that, like, it's again maybe a stretch to call it environmental storytelling, but
Yeah,
stuff
yeah. I'd,
evolves
I'd want to
on the
see.
third
I'd
day.
want to
They're
see stuff
coughing. They're
like.
Yeah,
I'd want to see stuff
boarded
like
up
the
houses,
apothecary,
right?
all shuttered up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see stuff like I want to see the plague progressing. So some of these houses. Um, I want to see, was it black crosses they put on the doors? Was it? I want to see
Yeah,
that kind of stuff happening as the game progresses. I want to see those banners going black, right? I want to see something showing me that things are changing. Um, so anyway, but I still think they've got at least two that they've done quite well. They've got the bit at the beginning setting the scene, and it's a shame, almost a shame they didn't do that at the end, right? They could have just done that at the end with the king turning up. And so
yeah, agreed.
I think we have, and I think both are successful, right? The dialogue works fine, the scene at the beginning works fine. So a good would be successful use of more than one game writing technique. And I think they're probably there for their techniques.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, an
Which
excellent would be that the mechanics support the theme. And again, the problem is there almost are no mechanics. right?
Yeah, exactly.
You're walking and collecting stuff, and that's it. So that doesn't really support the theme. Um, I'm not sure which fable or moral they were going for. I would guess. I'm just look at their game notes to see if they say anything. No, they don't say anything about that. So it's definitely not the Hare and the Tortoise. Um,
I mean, it could be with our walk speed. We're slow and steady.
it could be. It could be. Um,
But yeah, I
Panther
think
and the Shepherds. I
the
return. That's
main
not
issue
really
is
that
that
one.
even if the story really emphasizes the theme of the fable they're going for, the mechanics don't, just because there's a lack of mechanics. If the mechanic is
But the
picking up tablets, I don't think that emphasizes the
No.
moral that they're going for.
but the stag at the pool is, what is the most truly valuable is often underrated. And it's not that either. So I'm not even sure which of the fables they've gone for. So I think it definitely doesn't get up to the excellent level. But still, I think the actual the practical aspect of conveying the narrative is done well, right? So I think that's good. So that takes us on to their feedback. So what they said was that in the lab they were told to add resources or relationships with the townspeople. So that's when they added the town distrust system, which tracks how friendly you are, right? And it says
Okay.
there's and the tracker that you can show on screen, and they implemented gold to allow you to purchase things, and that was also tracked to get stuff for quests, right?
So
And then they
what-
said, yeah,
go ahead. Let's see if I can do this
well, I was
without
going to say
talking.
they had 3 points, so let's talk about that first one. So that's the first one they were told was to add the distrust system.
So here's the thing. I don't think they have implemented gold. What they've done is added a branch to the dialogue system, but
Yes.
we don't have gold, or at least not in a meaningful gameplay sense, right? It's not like we can
No.
go around
It's a
you
flag
talked about
in the
Disco
story
Elysium,
engine.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like we could, if it was a case of we rummage around in the grass and we can scrape together enough gold to buy a thing as well, then that's
Yeah.
more of a. But then again,
Yeah.
we did sort of say having the trust meter is one of the few things that nudges it to the game side of interactive narrative. So it's definitely had an improvement.
Yeah,
wait, hang on,
I think that sort of worked, but I just feel that
they could have done a lot
I
more
mean,
with it, I think.
I'm not sure what happens. What are the consequences of it, right? So it changes the way that they talk to you, but does it actually change much else? Not sure.
Yeah, and
Um,
it does feel like it's a thing they've added just to say that it's there, rather than something that,
yeah,
because the big choice is, do we help the apothecary or the potion seller? And I don't necessarily know how the trust
Yeah.
ties in with that.
So the second one they said was they said have the smaller in-game choices affect the bigger ones.
Okay, so that's
So they said
just what we mentioned.
so
So how does it manifest?
so the distrust of the town and the people you choose to work for determine bigger choices like how you're able to end the game. Depending on who you choose, it will lock off certain dialogue options, meaning that endings can be dependent on smaller interactions between you and the NPCs.
Now, we already spoke about this one as well when we were talking about agency, and I can kind of see what they were going for, but as we already said earlier, sort of locking off half of it kind of makes some of their the choices less interesting in a way.
Yeah. And their final point was to have choices that unlock areas. So that was implemented by depending on a choice at the end of day 1, the ruins will be available for the potion brewer's quest, but the ruins become accessible to visit the apothecary if you sided against him.
So that is true. Those sort of story choices do unlock different bits of the game world, but really the game world is just an extra couple of feet on the end of the town. There's not new or different gameplay there.
But in both cases, the ruins are available, right?
True, yeah, but not on the first day.
No.
But you're right. It's not a choice that we make of we unlock the ruins or we unlock the garden, right?
So I think so. A pass for this would be feedback was addressed, but the changes have had limited success. And I kind of feel that that's what's gone on here. They've definitely made changes in response, and those changes haven't been negative. I think they've helped a little bit, but they either have not um, fully kind of embraced them, or um, they haven't kind of taken them through and used them to their full effect. If you sort of mean to actually solve the problem.
Yeah.
So that kind of feels more like a pass level. What any kind of final thoughts on this one?
So I think it has like the foundations of a like quite a good story engine. Like you say, there's the sort of relationship meters. There's
Yeah.
like the gold meter that could sort of have a
Yeah.
lot more sort of hung off it, so to speak. I like
And
the
some nice
interactions with
infrastructure
characters.
for delivering the story as well.
Yeah, I really
Mm.
like the introduction, like with the book. It's such a nice, it's a classic sort of fairy tale kind of scene
Yeah.
setting like trope, and the way that they presented it is really really nice, and it leads in quite nicely to the start of the game.
Yeah. So the big problem really is again it's the amount of play, right?
Yeah,
So it's at least you are picking stuff up, right? I mean, I think if you weren't collecting things, then really the entire game could be replaced by just having character icons that you click on, right?
yeah,
Um,
just so.
and I think that's the biggest problem here. That they were asked to produce a narrative game, not an interactive story, and they just haven't got enough game bits. But the engine itself, like you said, is all there, and the delivery mechanism is there, and they've got the basis of an interesting story, right? With the kind of the solve the riddle of the plague before the king's forces arrive, kind of thing.
That's
So
it.
yeah,
It's sort of
yeah,
crying out for a more like adventure gamey style like investigation, right? Go and find the
yes, yeah,
like go into the potion seller's house, look at his potions, go, this one smells a bit
yeah,
like plague or something like that. Those kinds of.
yeah, exactly. Right.
All right.
I
So
think
that's the last game of
that's the
this
last
batch.
game.
So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again very soon for another video.